Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the escalation between Hamas and we've seen as far as Israel is concerned and the ramifications of this sad development as far as humanitarians, as far as the humanitarian cause at this time, the plight of the lives being lost on both sides are concerned. We'll be talking about the very real crisis that is at this time ensuing. We've also seen the UN Security Council emergency meeting being called on the same issue. Of course, statements from all over the world of where all leaders saying that the violence is, of course, should be avoided, the escalation should be avoided. We'll be discussing the ramifications and a little bit about the history of this conflict also, going back to what we've seen in the past between Palestine and Israel, and whether we can hope for a de-escalation following this incident. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me today Nasir Ali Khan, who's a former ambassador. Thank you so much for being with us today. We also have with us Abubaker Younis Matar, who's an Arab journalist. Thank you so much for joining us today. Shazia Anwer, who is an IR expert. Thank you for being with us. And Maleeha Lodhi, who's of course a former ambassador. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we go on, I'm going to go to Maleeha. Maleeha, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Maleeha, of course, I'm sure that you've been following what's been happening, and you know there is a lot that has been said from, I think, most of the countries all over the world, whichever side one stands on. Of course, at this time, we are looking at loss of civilian lives on both ends. How are you looking at this, and what do you expect in the next couple of weeks? Can we hope for de-escalation at all?
Well, first of all, it's a very dangerous situation that's building up because, as you know, Israel has announced that this is going to be a long war and that it seeks revenge. It's used the word vengeance. So I think the biggest fear now is that Israel may be getting ready to invade Gaza. If that happens, then, we will see a ground offensive inside Gaza. And there is the possibility and the risk and the danger of a massacre of Palestinians because, as you know, Gaza is a tiny, tiny territory and it's one of the world's most heavily populated areas. The civilians there will have nowhere to go. So if the Israelis go in through a ground offensive or in any other way, there's going to be a real big tragedy waiting to happen. Now, as for efforts at de-escalation, as you know, there is an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council, which is going to take place in the next few hours. But the question is whether the Council will be able to come to any kind of an agreement to move ahead with some kind of de-escalation. Because, as you know, the community is deeply polarized. Western countries are standing by Israel, and they've taken actually a very one-sided position. And then other countries in the world, of course, there is solidarity with the Palestinians. We've seen a very strong statement from the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Countries. We've heard the Saudi Arabian ministry calling for de-escalation. So, this, in the overall scenario, we have to wait and see what the Security Council comes up with.
But Maleeha, how, like you said also, how effective the UN Security Council is going to be in the circumstances, of course, is something that we can perhaps hope that it will be. But considering the situation, what it is, overall, as far as the Palestinians are concerned, if one talks to them, according to them, they're saying that this has been a long time coming. They're also saying that the struggle has been, the world has chosen to look the other way for a long time, and this was expected to a large extent. Even Israel should have expected it, according to the Palestinians. This is coming from them for a long time, the offensive that has now come. Is there, of course, like you said, the world stands divided on the issue. And that itself is, in the circumstances, not going to be a welcome thing in this conflict. So these circumstances, do you think there's going to be a change? Of course, we are at this time only wanting that, of course, the civilians should be safe and they should be able to have, the humanitarian cause here is larger than whatever the interest of any state may be?
Well, as you yourself identified, the root cause of this conflict is decades of a cruel Israeli occupation. And as Hamas has also said, there is anger because of the desecration by the Israeli forces of holy places like Al-Aqsa. So you're right, it was a long time coming. We can understand that. But the question is whether the world's highest forum, which is the UN Security Council, whether they are in a position to take any action to de-escalate this. Like the resolutions on Kashmir, the UN has responsibility for resolutions on Palestine. And there are countless resolutions on Palestine which are waiting to be implemented and executed. So I think the threat of a wider conflict in the Middle East should be a reason for the P5 or the permanent 5 members of the Security Council to try to hammer out some kind of an agreed approach that can prevent the conflict spreading and prevent descent into a much more dangerous situation with much greater bloodshed than we have seen so far. So we have to just wait and see whether, the Security Council lives up to its test. It is the primary body responsible in the world for the maintenance of international peace and security. This is a moment of truth for them.
Right, fair enough. Like you said, this is a moment of truth for them. Thank you so much for your time, Maleeha. Thank you for joining us. Ji, back to Nasir Saab here. Nasir Saab, you heard what Maleeha said, and also, of course, it's the way that the effectiveness of the UNSC. How would you rate it? How do you look at this in this kind of a scenario where countries like Israel are involved, where there's clearly, one has to say there are two sides here being taken by countries all over?
You see, as far as the United Nations Security Council is concerned, right now among all the P5, none of them have a sort of all-out support for the state of Palestine or the Palestinians as such. And as far as the Palestinians themselves are concerned, they couldn't be in a worse position. So I don't understand how the UN Security Council can compel Hamas to change whatever aims that they might have in the case of this conflict, because clearly it has been initiated by Hamas. Now there are several dynamics. The first thing, of course, is that Hamas is also the government in Gaza.
Okay.
It is a militant outfit which eventually changed into political party. It fought elections and won elections, which unfortunately none of the Western countries recognized it as a government. But de facto, since 2017, they are the government in Gaza. Now these days, the sort of, last year for instance, 200 Palestinians were killed by Israelis. And as Ambassador Maleeha mentioned, the desecration of the holy sites, actually entering the mosque. This is something that would really hurt the sensitivities of Muslims all over the world. Now, why would Hamas launch an attack at a time like this? I think economically, the people in Gaza are very stressed. And then when they have this sort of gross human rights violation, they can only look to militant groups to do something in return. Now, in the past few months or years, the Hamas was losing its popularity from that point of view, and others like the Lion's Den and all were gaining ground. So one of the reasons could possibly be that by launching this attack, it brings back the popularity of the Hamas and it strengthens their hold within Gaza. But as it happened, this has now become a seminal event because it's very much like 9/11. Whether 9/11 was the work of some Arab terrorists or whether they were, the result is going to be similar.
Okay.
I don't see a de-escalation. People who are talking about de-escalation are just providing lip service.
Okay.
Yes, the President Biden has instructed Secretary Blinken to contact over the phone all the regional leaders to make sure that nobody thinks about intervening or attacking from some other flank or something. But
there are some reports from Lebanon, are there not?
Lebanon, not the government. Hezbollah has fired rockets into an area which belonged to Lebanon, but was occupied many years ago by Israel. That's the extent. The other groups, there are several groups who have said, yes, we are also going to join this war. But the most important thing is it exposes Israel's intelligence services, it exposes their defenses, and then a lot of other people may gain the courage to escalate this.
Fair enough. And it misuse the situation to their own advantage, I suppose. One can say in a way. Let me take Mr. Matar. I'm sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Overall, as far as how would you rate it? I mean, of course, I mean, like Ambassador Saab is also saying, Lebanon it's not the government. It's not, it's rogue elements, one can call it, or not even rogue elements. I mean, whatever one. But the point is, it's a tricky situation. It's a difficult situation, and here, of course, we are looking at loss of lives. But if you talk to the Palestinians, they're saying we've been suffering for a long time. So for them, it seems to be, something that has been happening for 17, 18 years, even longer.
You see, first of all, it is not like, I would just disagree with the ambassador about saying that Hamas is doing this to gain, like popularity among the people of Palestine. This is not the case. We are fighting for our land. We are not fighting against Israel. It's not a state, it's an occupied place. It's actually this is a Palestinian area. Masjid al-Aqsa belongs to whom? Belongs to Israel? No. It belongs to the Palestinians. It belongs to all Muslim Ummah. So talking about Palestinians as they are, fighting because of the economical situation, fighting because they want their piece of land back. No. It's not like this. They are fighting for the holy place. This is number one. And that's what Hamas said. They say we're not fighting for somebody. We are fighting because we want our holy place back. And we have seen a lot of desecration of Aqsa Mosque. We have seen a lot of attack. We have seen a lot of no response from the other countries. So to whom they have to go? To whom they have to ask? United Nations will do something for the Palestinians? They haven't done for 78 years. Other countries, have they done something for the Palestinians? For Masjid Aqsa? Nobody's doing anything. So there should be no blame on the Palestinians, and there should be actually a support for the Palestinians, because this is a real cause. They are actually not a fighter for any political gain. No, they are only fighter to take their land back. It's not two-state fight. Okay, we are not fighting a state which we were supposed to
it's not
keep
a bilateral
saying,
issue.
Yeah, no, it's not a bilateral issue. This is
yes.
our right. This is our land. It's been occupied since 78 years, so we want it back. So we have the right to do everything. If Hezbollah is attacking, they have also the right to do the same, because it's Lebanon area. It's been occupied. So an occupied area, and there's no one actually supporting the Palestinians, no one supporting the Lebanese, nobody supporting anybody who's under occupation. So nobody also should come now and blame the Palestinians and say, you are supposed to solve, you're supposed to de-escalate the situation. No, this is not what we have to do. It is the other side who have to actually either be forced to leave the country, return it back, because this is our country, this is our holy places, it's not there at all. Or
what about there is, I want to include other guests, but there is,
please,
of course, talk about equal alternative being an equal representation of international law for both sides, whether we talk about the ICJ or whether, if those are options anymore. But, those have not, of course, been options, like you said, for the Palestinians for a very long time, if we look at the situation today even.
See, among the Palestinians, you will not find anybody who will accept a two-state solution, any other solution, name it. They will only accept one thing, that all Palestine, the area of Palestine comes back to the Palestinians, come back to the Muslims. And make sure all the Jewish leave Palestine now, especially this old government, this army which have occupied Palestine since then.
Right, fair enough. Let me go to Shazia here. Shazia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Shazia, I hope you've been following our discussion so far, but as far as the Palestinians are concerned, they say that, they were asked, they've done, as far, at their end, they've done what they were asked to. As far as international legitimacy on resolution is concerned, or whether committing to negotiations on non-violence is concerned, are some of the terms they initially have agreed to. But there hasn't been any, as far as on the Israel side, what, they're rolling back their occupation was one of those conditions that Israel on their end was supposed to do, and that hasn't happened. So for them, they're very clear that for them it's the only option, whether, here Mr. Matar here is saying, there is for them this kind of retaliation seems to be the only option. But then for the world and those watching and the countries involved, rolling back things, de-escalation, whatever we may call it, and the involvement of the UN, again, how far are we going to be able to intervene? And if we don't intervene, for the Palestinians, are they going to continue to suffer? More, of course, because we are looking at what, 313 Palestinians who've been killed in these strikes till now, as I understand, with about, the Israeli ministries also saying that there are more than 350 people there who have been injured. So whatever the toll may be, it may have increased, the overall situation on both sides doesn't seem to be getting better for anyone.
Mahrukh, Palestinians are not only on their own, but they are having this feeling that they are not in the picture even. And this all escalated from this normalization process. I can relate the dots between the normalization, like Abraham Accord, in which Israel decided to have the normalization process with Arab states. So there is no harm in it. Sovereign countries can decide to have diplomatic ties whomsoever they want to. But that leave the Palestinians in a situation where they lost their only hope that they are not alone and some powerful people or powerful countries are with them. So I can connect it with the Abraham Accord and this Arab normalization wave which is going on. The triggering factor was the G20 summit, where it was announced that there is an India, Middle East, and European Economic Corridor as a counterweight of the PRI has been announced, and Israel is a major part of it. Mr. Netanyahu in the General Assembly, United Nations General Assembly convention, showed a map, if you have remembered. And that map, he frowningly showed a map and described that there will no more be a Palestine, and we are going to have a deserted island here, or maybe we will have a super highway because we are connecting the Middle East to the Europe via an economic corridor. So these could be like small things for few critics, but I consider them extremely hopeless situation for Palestinians. When they are looking at the maps having no Palestine, and nobody is questioning and arguing with the gentleman who is presenting that map in the biggest assembly in the world, that in the future there will be no Palestine and there will be a deserted land in that. I think that the Oslo Accord must be revamped. The two nation resolution is the only resolution for Palestine and Israel. Both the nations, they should respect each other in a way that the counterbalance should not be tilted far more toward Israel. The way we have seen right now, the way we are seeing it. Uh, the Palestinians are feeling themselves, they are isolated and they are helpless and hopeless now. So this normalization, there is nothing wrong with that normalization, but it should not be done on the cost of the Palestine. it should not be done on the cost of 2 million individuals living in the Gaza Strip, which is in fact an open air jail. They are in chronic state of torture and humiliation. So there must not be any normalization on that cost. And the only solution, and I'm not seeing any de-escalation. I totally agree that this situation can be seen as the 9/11 too. And I totally agree with Mr. Ambassador that Hamas is not representing 100% Palestinians. So Hamas has there are fractions and pockets of groups, and there is also power structure. So I will not go to in the detail of that. But whatever Hamas has done, it's not wise, and its consequences are going to be very, very devastating. That's my analysis.
Fair enough. Let me go to Nasir. Nasir, do you agree? Of course, the consequences are going to be terrible for the Palestinians of what's happening. Again, we are looking at massive, death toll also coming and increasing. And of course, we've seen the reaction of Israel government saying that it's a war for them and it's going to be an extended one. So, Palestinians are looking at a potential wipeout also. So, what is the solution in your opinion? Do you agree with what Shazia is saying?
If what you're saying is right, then this attack by Hamas is like a suicide, because there is a big difference. There's asymmetry between the two. So they have been given a bloody nose, the Israelis. It's very embarrassing. The government will be held accountable. The intelligence agencies will be held accountable. But at the end of the day, it isn't possible, in my opinion, for the Hamas to overrun Israel. Now, as far as help for the Hamas is concerned, starting from the Qataris, who give like $360 million for development assistance, they help the Palestinians. Then the Iranis give them $100 million plus arms and things. Turkey also right now in this instance has been very cautious, but have been helping them. Only in July last, they hosted the leader of Hamas in Turkey. So they do have assistance. Now the Palestinian people, as the lady was saying here, they do not consider, overall in Palestine, for instance, Hamas's political support is less than 30%. As far as the leader of Hamas is concerned, he has a 56% popularity in Gaza. So what I'm trying to say is, what is it do you think that the Palestinians want from Hamas? You see, good governance as far as the government in Gaza is concerned, but they also want somebody who can stand up and get them noticed. As far as normalization was concerned.
Let me go to Matar Sahib here also. There is a lot of being said about, illegal occupation of, for example, Namibia by South Africa, and, the violations of human rights there. And what the UN said, I want to talk about this and I want to quote this. It says that it reaffirms the legitimacy of the struggle of peoples for independence, territorial integrity, national unity, and liberation from colonial and foreign domination and foreign occupation by all available means, including armed struggle. So when this can be said about other conflicts, why is it not being said about this conflict, and why has it been left so late for the situation to come to where it is, in your opinion?
I will just say with them something we Palestinians always believe. We don't rely on United Nations. Okay. We don't even care what United Nations says. We don't care what they think about us. What we care is about our land, about our people, about our holy places. Palestinians don't go after the United Nations. No, none of us have asked the United Nations to interfere even, or even to say something for us. We know that the United Nations have recognized Israel. When they have occupied Palestine in 1948, they have actually recognized them. They give them the authority, they give them the power with England. So these countries actually are the occupiers. They are the supporter of the Israelis. So how come we actually look to them as a part of people who can give us justice, or we should blame them. Why you have said this to South Africa? Why you're not saying this to the Palestinians? No, we are not waiting their justice.
But I'm saying that
because they are actually their own. They are the occupiers.
That unfortunately does exist in the world for other countries also who are, there are conflicts in other regions very close to us also, where we are looking at double standards. So, I'm just saying that it's a case in point for the Palestinian cause and how they have been agitating for a very long time, and yet it has come to what it has today. And we are looking at what's happening, the loss of lives, the destruction, all of it. Shazia, again, I want your opinion on the double standards which the Palestinians are talking about. Mr. Matar here says that it doesn't matter to them what the stand the UN takes, how the UN reacts as far as the Palestinians are concerned. But the question is, the effectiveness of the UN could have made a huge difference to the loss of lives, to the humanitarian bloodshed that we are seeing at this time.
I totally agree that Palestinians, they should not be bothered about what other people are thinking about them. They are fighting for their life. That's now and never. So whatever they are doing, it's totally justified, and I can totally understand that. But so far, these big UN and all other organizations, I call them biggies, what they are capable of doing, they can do whatever they want. But they have this same problem which we have discussed like time and again, that they have this selective blindness, and they show this selective blindness toward Kashmir, and they are continuously showing this selective blindness toward Palestine. They do not consider Palestine a conflict or even a problem. They think that Israel has a right to have a control or colonize, not only occupy, colonize the entire region, whatever like the Palestinians are right now having at their disposal. So just it's Israel's right, and we are with Israel, and that's the agenda, that's the international agenda. You cannot see any balanced opinion, you cannot see any balanced advocacy. Even by living here in Europe, I cannot see that people are unbiased and people even know the actual picture what's going on in Palestine, and what Palestinians are actually asking for, and what is their day-to-day routine, how much their sufferings are. So they are asking for their basic rights. But what's happening in the result is that Hamas and Hezbollah and all other their faces, right now their faces, the only faces, have been categorized as terrorist organizations.
But Shazia, what about a legal solution? We talk about what the role the ICJ can play. Those have been exhausted. Can we go back to that for there to be perhaps a peaceful solution to this problem, or do you think that ship has sailed now?
The peaceful solution is, Mahrukh, only if we go back to the Oslo.
Shazia, you need to unmute yourself. I can't hear you now. I think we'll reconnect again. We can't. Again, Ambassador Saab, do you think there's a solution, legally speaking? Do you think it's too late for the ICJ to get involved?
No, in fact, this very incident may convince some people that we need to look for a peaceful solution. You see, when you talk about normalization and all, the Palestinians did feel as if they were being left out and almost being considered unimportant in all this. When the major players are being brought on board and being convinced to have normalization of relations with Israel, then obviously it hurts not only the sentiments, but there are certain fears amongst the Palestinians in terms of loss of support. But you see now in this particular case, on the one hand, this is something, as I said, extremely spectacular and beyond people's expectations. And a very important point is over 100 Israelis have been taken hostage, including soldiers, and they have been brought back to Gaza. Now you see, normally, what the reaction we've seen in the past also, there is incredible retaliation using indiscriminate bombardment, killing women, children, old people, and using phosphorus and things like that. Now they will have to think twice, because over 100 Israelis, if you remember, one Israeli soldier got kidnapped and they had to release several Palestinians from jail. So to them, it's, there are 9 million population. To them, each Israeli matters. And public opinion in Israel can topple governments if you make a mistake like this. So my assessment is that the world will finally say that we need to find a peaceful solution. You see, the major stakeholders, if it is in their interest to have peace in the region, then the Palestinians will definitely be given a state of their own. How it turns out, what happens at the end of the day, will take time or will be difficult to say. But the most important thing is, today they have done something that the world will stand up and notice them. And this war cannot be the same as the previous one. You see, the government of Israel, there are many issues there. In 1973, the Yom Kippur War, Syria and Egypt attacked simultaneously. They created a huge problem for Israel. And then when they retaliated and eventually they ended up taking, certain territories and pushed these people back, Golda Meir lost her government. Why? Because the public opinion in Israel said, why were we not ready for this? Now, this is something in this day and age is very similar. It may be on a smaller scale, but it's very similar. The other thing is, in an asymmetric war, you see, your enemy is not wearing a uniform. It's not sitting on a tank. It can merge in the population. And today it's using technology. It's using drones, it's using paragliders, it's all kinds of things are coming into play. So, the biggest problem is it has exposed the sort of defense that we imagined Israel to be having with all the major allies that they have. So in my opinion, there will be major players who will say, please do sit down and try to find a peaceful solution, because too many civilians are dying in this conflict.
Mr. Matar, do you agree with this? You think that perhaps we can, like Ambassador Saab is saying, move towards a solution? What is the way forward then for the Palestinians? You said, you are not looking at the UN, you are not looking at other organizations, but they do have a role. But at the same time, what is the way forward for the Palestinians then?
Well, see, the way we think this whole situation can stop by pushing the Israeli out from the country. See, it's not, we are not wishing, we are not hoping, we are not targeting that to topple the government of Netanyahu. No, we want Netanyahu take his bag and leave Palestine. His government take their bag and they all go to their own country. All the settlers inside Palestine leave the country. Then this solution will solve. Then this situation all will be solved. If this generation accepts the Israeli, if people think that this generation will accept, the coming generation will not accept. Nobody will accept a thief in his house. Nobody will accept an occupier on his land. See, this is a logic. No, you can't change logic. Things are like this. An occupier have to leave. If he stays for 70, 80 years, for 100 years, at the end he will leave. So this is a very logical thing.
But you agree that there's a very real disparity here also. Disparity in all respects between Israel and Palestine.
So what? Should we surrender to them then? Let them take the country, do what they want, kill our kids, take us to their jails, take our holy places, do what they want? No, this is not the way to think about it. See, again, I have to say one thing. See, Palestinian issue, as said, it's not belong only to Palestinians, because see, this is just like Mecca and Medina, this belongs to all Muslims. So Qibla Awal, Masjid Al-Aqsa belongs also to all Muslims. It is my responsibility, your responsibility, to anybody responsible, anyone who believes that this is your holy place, you have to come to fight for it. Israeli thing that there is the Sulaiman Tamil was there, so they are fighting for it. So why don't we do the same? They came because the Sulaiman used to be here, and he's the prophet, their prophet, and so they are fighting for the same place. So we Muslims should come united and do the same. This is our place, take it back.
Shazia, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Shazia, there is, I hope you were hearing Ambassador Saab and Mr. Matar also. But as far as, do you agree with Ambassador Saab when he says that perhaps this is that one incident that will make the world notice what's happening as far as, and the plight and the suffering of the Palestinians, and perhaps, move them to come towards a solution, because, it's going to involve, it has involved a lot of those countries that matter at this time. Do you think that it's perhaps that's a or do you think that's a optimistic view of looking at things?
No, I'm not optimistic in this situation. Yes, this is a very loud noise, and it is at the right time, but in a wrong way. It is going to have a very harsh consequence. It should not have been done, but it is a cry of a hopeless and helpless voice that nothing could be normal if we are not in the picture. And Palestine is not in the picture for a couple of nations and groups and countries for some years, and they are very cozy about the idea of being comfortable with the idea that there will be a conflict in the region and they will control it, but the things will be normal. So it is a very loud cry to tell that nothing is normal and nothing will be normal until and unless we are not in the picture. So without including us, there is nothing normal in the Middle East or in the broader world. So include us and consider us that we are still suffering, and we are, as a nation, need some rehabilitation. We need our security. We need peace. So things are so out of hand that people are getting so insensitive about this Palestine issue that this was supposed to happen. This was, that didn't surprise me. This was supposed to happen. But is it a good move or a bad move is a very critical thing. I think its consequences are going to be very fatal, even for Palestinians. But it was much demanded. It has to be like that. Otherwise, the international scenario was very comfortable, whatever they are doing among themselves. So they are totally forgetting there is a problem.
What do you expect from this meeting of the UNSC?
Mahrukh, you have asked something?
What do you expect from this meeting of the UN Security Council on the issue?
I am expecting that they are considering some sort of solution, which is again going to be beneficial to Israel, and Israel will try to get some time, to gain some time, and Israel will definitely fight back or attack, whatever we will call it at that time. So it's just a matter of time. So no General Assembly or the Arab Summit, any of the league or agency is not going to solve it, because this problem is bigger than that, way bigger than that. Because nobody wants to solve it.
As far as the UN resolution is concerned, I'm pretty sure there will be condemnation for, as within inverted commas, a terrorist organization that has initiated an attack and killed so many civilians, and that the rest of the powerful nations stand solidly behind Israel and will defend Israel to the very end. I think the wordings may not be exactly that, but if you ask me what will it result in, there will definitely be condemnation of Hamas and there will be support for Israel.
So the Palestinians at this time, the loss of lives, the tragedy that's unfolding there, doesn't hope to gain anything from.
No, I'm pretty sure that this event is going to gain a lot for the Palestinians.
Eventually.
In the not too distant future.
Okay.
Because you see, the important thing is the world in that region. What is the interest of the United States to try and bring the Abraham Accords and try and bring normalization? Because they also want to have stability in West Asia. It is in their interest. And today, they are a powerful nation. And therefore, you know, immediately, as you can see, this present Israeli government is an ultra-nationalist, extreme rightist
You're saying
government.
that it's going to dent their popularity on the home front.
Look, what I'm saying is, this event that, you know, in the recent past, many in Europe and in the United States were not entirely in favor of a government like this. It is considered an extremist, intolerant government, the coalition partners of Mr. Netanyahu. But this event has brought sympathy for them. The other thing, of course, is if it is a state of war and it gets prolonged, in all likelihood, there will be a national kind of government. Right now, the opposition in Israel has also stood behind. They're all together. But that might also annoy these ultra-rightists.
Fair enough. Mr. Matar, your last few comments. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time before we close. Anything you'd like to add?
I would just like, you know, to hope the Palestinians really, you know, do not face a troubled situation, and I hope the Muslim nation, Muslim Ummah, stands with them in this situation.
Fair enough. Of course, you know, we are at this time looking at human lives being lost and the kind of suffering, the plight of the Palestinians. Also, of course, those civilians who have lost their lives in Israel also. Overall, like Ambassador Saab said, and the opinion here seems to be generally that the kind of incident that has happened will perhaps resonate with the world and will perhaps hopefully open their eyes to what this conflict is capable of. The kind of loss of lives, the kind of tragedy that can unfold on both sides, and perhaps move the world and the powers towards a speedy solution for those that have been suffering, and you know, suffering for 75 years or so, no less. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.